Hello everyone, the 4.0 special program has just concluded, and with it, not only do we have our usual setup on batters, we also have 7 free 5-star units that anyone can claim just for logging in. This video is meant to help you decide who you want to pull for, as well as who you want to select from the selector, with what you know from Hoya themselves, the beta, and what predictions we can make for now that will come later in the 4.x patches. Let's get started with the banners. And just before we properly begin, let me say this. If you like a character, please pull for them. These videos are about people looking for the best choice meta-wise and to improve their account, which not everyone will care about. If you believe playing for favorites will be a more enjoyable experience than playing for meta, make that choice every single time. The first new coming banner unit is Yao Guang, who is a powerful support for the upcoming Elation team. She can buff allies Elation party-wide, let Aha gain extra turns through her ultimate, and can trigger extra Elation hits when a party member deals damage, based on her Elation if it is higher. This means that she's going to be very powerful for any Elation DPS units and most likely the upcoming Mono Elation team. This is why I believe she's the best possible pull this patch, however there are some caveats. She brings many benefits for Elation teams, but unlike most modern supports, her generalist potential is incredibly mediocre. She can be ran as a 4th party member option for Archer, but outside of that and maybe some niche Aglaya and Fishao teams, she's pretty much just an Elation bot. If you're not planning to invest in a Sparksy or future Elation DPS units, currently Evanescia and the Silverwolf SP, Yao Guang is going to be a fairly dismal pull. If you know you're skipping the Elation meta for whatever reason, or if you're on the fence, skip her and get her on her rerun, which will most likely be fairly quick if someone like Trivy is anyone to go by. Overall, however, if you're only pulling for one unit this patch or are looking for the future, Yao Guang is a very good choice. Do note that her signature light cone is a very strong upgrade, as it gives her lots of energy and good crit generalist buffs, so keep that in mind if your pulls are limited. Everknight's first rerun is here, and while I am sad I cannot D6 her yet, because of the fact she is my favorite character in the game, she is absolutely absurd. She is massively flexible, with her only needed teammate being Hyacinth, as she can work with Castris as a sub-DPS, as well as her wide variety of supports options, Cyrene, Tribby, the Remembrance main character, Ronmei, and even Pella for free-to-play accounts. Her damage output is incredibly insane in AoE and respectable enough in single target, and she is absolutely the best DPS running on the version 4.0 banners. Currently, however, Sparksy has more room for growth, depending on if the Elation team gets upgrades in 4.1 or 4.2. If you have any part of Mono Remembrance, Castris or Hyacinth especially, she'll be a great pick to round out the team and improve your performance overall. Currently, Mono Remembrance is still the best team in the game, and Everknight is a large part in that, so you can't really go wrong. Even if you don't have Castris, Everknight is a very good main DPS with a team such as Hyacinth, Cyrene, or Remembrance main character. She is a very strong pull, but she is heavily reliant on Hyacinth. Without Hyacinth, I believe that Sparksy is the better DPS pull from the version 4.0 banners. If you do have Hyacinth, Everknight is a great pull. Do note that her signature is good, but the new Battle Pass cone is also functional enough if you want to spend for that. Additionally, because it's a rerun, I'll briefly touch on Eidolons. Both her E1 and E2 are solid. Her E1 makes her better as a sub-DPS due to its large undiluted damage bonus, and her E2 makes her a great main DPS, letting her hit high memory levels and staying permanently in her alt state. Everknight's Eidolons are a great place to start looking if you want the Mono Remembrance Eidolons, especially if you do not know if you'll have the funds for Castris E2, due to Castris' own E1 being fairly mediocre. Overall, though, Everknight is a very strong unit who cannot really go wrong with pulling, and will most likely remain excellent throughout all of the 4.x patches. Sparksy is the second new 5-star on the 4.0 banners, and unlike Yao Guang, is only here for half the patch in the second phase. In the original draft of the script, I had projected her to be much lower, as much of her power comes from Sparkle. However, with the selector, every single account can have Sparkle, so there goes that weakness. Do note that you do absolutely need Sparkle for Sparksy to be competitive. This is because Sparksy is basically a modern D-Hill and plays exactly like his Currency War version, consuming every single SP your team has with a random chance to gain strong benefits to launch a powerful nuke attack, as well as having a good damage ultimate and elation skill. Currently, because of the fact that Sparkle is so important, Yao Guang isn't as big of a deal, but she is absolutely present on all of her best-in-slot teams. Sparksy and Everknight are around the same level of priority, so whoever you pull is going to depend on your account. Additionally, Everknight has most likely already reached her peak with the Mono Remembrance team completed, while Sparksy only has room to grow. If you lack any pieces of Mono Rem, or you want to get in on the ground floor of the Elation meta, Sparksy is a phenomenal generalist DPS pick that should serve you very well. Assailants is a difficult unit to call a DPS, however, she technically is. Either way, with Kafka in the selector, her biggest barrier to entry is gone, as the two of them form the DOT core that any two of Sampo, Ruanmei, Tribby, Cyrene, DHBT, Gallagher, or obviously Black Swan can be made of. This makes her a very worthwhile pull for interested accounts. However, you should only pull for her if you either have Kafka on your account already or are planning to select her from the selector. A DOT team without Kafka is like a gacha YouTube channel without clickbait. It simply cannot do anything. If DOT is of interest to you, she is a great pick to bring them into the modern era. To touch shortly on Eidolons, Hyacelinth's E1 is a loaded Eidolon that both massively increases your team's DOT damage and lessens the need for Black Swan on the team. It is a rough call to make on which would be better, considering the fact that Black Swan is rerunning at the same time, but it is a notable upgrade nonetheless. E2 is also a strong upgrade, a permanent 90% damage bonus to your whole team, which immediately re-incentivizes using Black Swan. Both are strong upgrades if DOT is something you want to keep using and you know you want to keep investing into. Black Swan is getting buffed as one of 2 Nova Flare units this patch. However, she is still the least important piece of the DOT team. For Black Swan. Most importantly, Arcana now has no limit on how many can be taken into account and is only halved after dealing damage. It keeps its max of 50 visible stacks, meaning as long as you can hit that, you start the next turn with 25 Arcana stacks instead of 0. It's also much easier to spread her Death Shred, as her ult and basic attack now can spread it as well, making her fully SP positive if you need to. If you already have Kafka and Hyacelinth, Black Swan is the next biggest upgrade for DOT teams. But just like Hyacelinth, she's quite useless outside of them and is potentially replaceable, as Cyrene or a normal support such as Ronmei or Tribby can perform similarly depending on the encounter. Eidolon-wise, her E1 is great, however her E2 is pretty much only useful in pure fiction. E1 does, notably, make her able to use Hyacelinth's signature, allowing Hyacelinth to use more selfless damage options, like Black Swan's own signature. Whether this is worth it or not is debatable and heavily dependent on your account, but keep it in mind if you're looking to fully optimize your DOT team. Rappa is our final DPS this patch, and she is getting her first rerun. We are so proud of her. If you have Dahlia, Rappa is certainly a choice. She is the best AoE break DPS, however she's pretty much the worst of the 3 break DPSs, mainly due to being imaginary rather than physical or fire. If you are interested in a break DPS, or just want to grab the mythical Rappa before she disappears for another year, you do have a shot here. Do note that without her Sig, she lacks a quick ramp up and can feel incredibly clunky, and without Dahlia she's going to lack the damage output that many other units have. This makes her reliant on both horizontal and vertical investment, which may not be to everyone's tastes. Speaking of vertical investments, her Eidolons are actually quite good. Her E1 is strong and can lead to consistent ultimate loops with its extra energy and defense ignore, and her E2 is a good damage upgrade that helps a lot in Apocalyptic Shadow, her weakest game mode. However, prioritizing Dahlia and Fugue's E1 is most likely a good idea, and you absolutely need Rappa's signature weapon first. Overall, Rappa is not the best choice, however, she is completely functional as long as you have Dahlia, or as long as you can get high vertical investment. Saridra is someone you should only pull if you like Finite or Anaxa. That probably isn't the first time you've heard this, and it definitely won't be the last. Sadly, Sparksea, despite spamming her skill, does not deal skill damage, so while she can build up charge and enter Coupe de Mine quickly, she cannot capitalize on its benefits. Finite and Anaxa both still love her. Finite especially is remaining at the top of the meta, thanks in large part to Saridra, but without those two, Sari is a very unappetizing pull. This is especially due to the fact that her other meta niche was with Archer, and arguably Yao Guang is going to be a better choice if you want to use an off-meta Archer teammate. Dupe-wise, her E1 is phenomenal for Finite teams and decent for Anaxa, and unless you want your Saridra to be dealing more damage, nothing else is really worth it. Do note that her signature weapon was very much skippable on her release due to the power of the event light cone, but now, because of the rerun, it might be a good idea to look for that if you have not pulled it already. It is a very strong light cone that helps her out quite a bit. I should reiterate, only pull for her if you use Finite or Anaxa regularly. She's not flexible in the slightest and does not have the highest prospects of improving in the future. And finally, we have Sparkle. She's a great unit. Her new buffs are very strong for a variety of reasons, and she is absolutely an upgrade to your account. Arguably the best universal harmony in the game right now. So why is she the least useful pull? You can choose her from the selector. Kafka is the only unit that has a shot at being better than her for your account, and Sparkle is an incredibly powerful unit that you will have to have a very good reason to not select. If you are choosing someone else and you don't have Sparkle, pull for her, but realistically, you're going to be picking Sparkle. Speaking of, and finally, the famed selector. You'll be able to choose between one of Jingyuan, Kafka, Dihil, Jingilu, Sparkle, Acheron, or Aventurine. This is just going to be a quick flowchart. I'm not going to do a deep dive into all 7 of these units. It basically boils down to, if you don't have Sparkle, you should get Sparkle. If you have Sparkle but not Kafka and are interested in DOT, get Kafka. If you have Sparkle, don't have Kafka, or have Sparkle, have Kafka, and you don't care about DOT that much, you should look for an Eidolon upgrade of the units listed here, as those are the largest upgrades. If none of this applies to you, do whatever you want. There's not really much else to do here once you have these checks. Version 4.0 of Honkai Star Rail is looking to be very exciting. Personally, I'm ready for Yao Guang and will be pulling for her, and saving to see because I like a lot of the designs they've shown off so far. Hopefully this video allowed you guys to make a more informed choice about the version 4.0 banners and selectors, and please let me know in the comments if I did help and who you're going to be pulling for. While you're down there, make sure to like and subscribe so you'll never miss my next video, and I'll hope to see you guys all next time.